Ron Howard, the director everyone knows as Hollywood's nicest director, finally broke his silence on who pushed him to his limits. Now 71, the Oscar-winning director identified the 6 actors he allegedly had the worst time working with. From huge egos to aghast betrayals, these aren't merely artistic differences. These are Hollywood war stories. So who got Ron ticked off? Which all-time great star almost drove him off the set? Here in this video, we get to the bottom of decades of behind-the-scenes tension, rumored stories, and occasional interviews. Keep watching, because number 2 will blow your mind. 6. Tom Sizemore. Ron Howard directs his sets like a symphony, silent baton, consistent beat, all players knowing when to enter. The objective isn't anarchy. It's control that's invisible, the kind that allows actors to forget the equipment and slide into reality. Which is why, when Tom Sizemore showed up on Ransom in 1996, the atmosphere allegedly changed from metronome to meteor storm. Sizemore was a whirlwind, gritty, magnetic, raw. Just the sort of intensity fans adored him for, and just the sort of unpredictability a clockwork production can't so readily swallow. Crew members would later describe a palpable tension in the air, the sense that the scene you rehearsed might not be the scene you shot, because one person's energy could spike or crash without warning. Howard's philosophy is simple. Preparation creates freedom. You plan so that discovery has a safe playground. Insiders say Sizemore's process pushed against that rhythm. Call sheets didn't feel like promises. They felt like suggestions. An entrance might spark and fizzle out. A line might emerge electrified, then materialize as static on the next take. It wasn't about forgetting lines or missing marks, folks said. It was about an uncertainty that warped the room to its will. On a Howard set, where serenity is protocol, that sort of uncertainty gets costly quick. In time, in concentration, in faith. There was one day when it was whispered in reverent, tactful tones that the show had to come to a halt dead in its tracks. No, not because the lights had gone out, nor the cameras jammed, but because the emotional climate was off. Howard, somehow, requested a reset, so diplomatic that it is to blame. No shouting, but no public rebuke. His principal move appeared to be to reblock coverage and shift shot order, along with rebuilding the day based on the energy he really had, rather than the energy the schedule was based on. It is the soft power crisis management. Don't inflate, hold. The sound on set did not blow up, it blew out. But everyone received the subtext. When a director covers rhythm at that level, that's a flare. Sometimes the clock runs bleeding minutes. The images did work in this chapter, and it is thrilling because Sizemore on screen is coiled, threatening, living, and crackles in Ransom. Howard has been exceptional at bringing in dirty brilliance and putting it into tidy frames, and insiders report that he did it here, improvising on the run like a seasoned quarterback reading a busted play. The price was paid in the workflow, though. Assistant directors, production's resident triage nurses, needed to deal with scattered resets. Heads of department dialed up their comms. The family of the set atmosphere Howard creates, egalitarian, respectful, hushedly cheering, needed to don armor. You can sense that level of tension even when no one says a word. It exists in, between setup, and bleeds into the cadence of a lunch break. While the lesson was nothing about blame, as those around Howard would have you believe, it was about borders. Passion is the soul on a movie set. Discipline is an account that keeps it. Once it turns into a roulette wheel, faith erodes among actor and director, director and crew, and no less importantly, between the picture and the calendar. Howard did not moralize. He made plans. He reduced variables, raised coverage insurance, and discovered performance beats that did not demand ideal conditions to occur. That is, he created volatility and maintained the film without publicly shattering the man. When Sizemore passed away in 2023, Howard did not release lengthy quotations or grand elegies, and commentators pointed out the silence. Perhaps that is the most significant coda. Not cruelty, but distance. For a director who values preparation, the Ransom experience was a case study in the price of unpredictability. The day is stalled, the crew tarrying, the plan bending, and the leader opting for containment over confrontation. Volcano on a clockwork set isn't a moral epithet. It's a physics equation. Lava is compelling. It also finds the cracks. Howard's career, constructed on stability, perfectly understood where to break those cracks asunder and how to guide the flow without incinerating the studio. If you imagined Ron Howard's patience could not be broken, the next actor showed differently. 7. Andy Griffith. Ron Howard's first day on the set of The Andy Griffith Show in 1960 was when he was 6 years old, a red-headed Oklahoma boy with an effortless natural charm that radiated on the screen. To the world, he was Opie Taylor, Sheriff Andy's wide-eyed son, residing in the idyllic town of Mayberry. To Ron, the set was home, and Andy Griffith was a second father. Griffith adopted him, letting the boy's instincts be his guide and showing him the rhythms of performing. Andy made me feel like I belonged, Howard once recalled. In those first years, the bond was sweet, light-hearted, and real, a mentorship that seemed to be infused with the warmth of the show. But as the seasons passed and the pressures of success drew tighter around them, the charming picture crumbled. By the mid-1960s, the show was a sensation, and Andy Griffith's name was identified with small-town virtue. Behind the down-home facade, however, insiders detected a change. Griffith himself had turned moody, withdrawn, even explosive at times. The burden of being host to one of television's biggest hits was crushing, and it started to shift the tone of the set. Crew members said he became controlling and short-tempered when things weren't going the way he wanted them to go. Ron, at the onset of his teenage years, felt the difference most keenly. The relaxed laughter between takes became more scarce. The soft guidance became abrupt. It was, as one of his castmates later put it, like watching a summer sky cloud over. Howard was learning his first lesson in the disconnect between public face and private personality, a lesson that would quietly inform the director he would one day become. The straw maybe broke the camel's back with a lifetime of age and faith in his own work. It was maybe through a few years of becoming older and more confident in the trade. Howard was no longer content with just hitting his marks. He started asking introspective questions regarding story arcs, motivation, and, to Griffith, low-key challenges regarding authority. The father-son dynamic that once seemed natural now had an edge to it. Griffith, who was accustomed to getting things done the way he thought they ought to be done at the end of the day, would not necessarily have agreed with his on-screen son in relation to the emerging independence. As recorded in crew memories, there were days when Griffith's exasperation manifested as acerbic repartee over days of silence. For young Ron, that was bewildering. This was the man who had taught him everything he knew about being professional. But that bewilderment matured into insight. One learns early how to deal with dominating personalities, he would later comment. Particularly when one is able to flip the charm for a score, then switch it off tight between scenes. During the aftermath of his leading show's conclusion in 1968, their romance cooled. No fights broke out, no rumors created about them, just distance. They never collaborated again, barely had a chance to speak to each other, only appearing in the limelight when duty called for doing so. When Griffith evolved into a television icon, Howard transitioned from a child star to a then aspiring filmmaker, the better sort, bare with the discipline he had brought in when he tasted it from there. Refers Howard, likely short and cautiously phrased while looking back at Griffith's funeral in 2012. He shaped me in ways I am still understanding. No bitterness, just limits. As he started developing his own career as a director, he'd worked out what his leadership should not be like. At that point, Howard devoured a stretch of the power trip which has persisted to date, eventually deciding that in his films, harmony was to be a quality he would be remembered for, rounding out the warmth on screen with the warmth behind it. His production rested on respect in all senses, one that operated in mutual respect and gentle dialogue, not on inflated egos. If you ask the numerous people who have been in touch with him, they have always encountered the contradiction between his relaxed character and the figure of the previous century, that of an emotional prodigy. For Ron, learning his lessons from Mayberry was less a matter of nostalgia and more a matter of structure. He learned how emotional tension and ego sense could taint an environment of creativity. As he began in films, it was with a base of cooperation, empathy, and consistency. In retrospect, The Quiet Storm of Mayberry wasn't just about Andy Griffith's unassuming hidden volatility, but more, it was the price of leadership in adversity. And for young creatives, absorbing those lessons by osmosis. For Howard, it would be the lifetime observation of emotional control, observing how charm conceals insecurity, how respect isn't earned by fear, even how legends are blind to a few things. It is the career paradox, America's kindest director perfected in the backrooms of a man who was not always kind. The small-town fantasy that shaped him in coming up also taught him the delicacy of that dream, the amount of effort required in maintaining calm once cameras stop rolling. For Russell Crowe, when Ron Howard and Russell